Hey guys, Morph here with an Amazon guide. This is a physical based bow Amazon, currently level 138. Before we get into the guide, I suggest you go to the official website, look through cooked recipes. If you ever don't know how to do something I suggest you to do in this video, the answer is probably there, link in the description. Let's start with important leveling item. You should get yourself a Flower Spring stack bow, the War Cloak, which is very good not only for leveling but also deep into the endgame. It has pretty good damage stats and a lot of life leech. Life leech will help you stay alive. Would definitely recommend getting it every time. I'm still using one. Then for your belt, you can either get Rainbow Rune Ward or Worm Tongue for extra leech. And for boots, get yourself an Epicenter Rune Ward. For rings, try to find some blue ones or rare ones with mana leech. The rest you can fill out any way you want. Now let's take a look at the skills. In the bow tree, we start out with Trinity Arrow. It's one of your single target options, useful for things like totems in K3K or Judgment Day, for example. You want to max it. Then we have Barrage, you're another single target option and your main killing skill early levels. You want to have 6 points into Barrage. It's useful for things like Act bosses, Hellbale, Asmodan, etc. Like big fat bosses generally are good for this skill. Then we have Phalanx. I don't really like this skill. I never actually used it. I can see it being good for some single target scenarios. Give it a try, but I don't like this skill myself. Then we have Dragon Lore. It's very useful to get yourself some phase resist. While you're leveling, you have enough points to max it as well. If you're farming areas like Duncrake, you should have it maxed. But if you're farming areas like the Ganze, well, phase resist doesn't really do a whole lot in there, so you don't have to have it. And then we have Wyrmshot, which is your main clear skill endgame. It starts out a bit weak, but it gets better and better the more points you have in it and its synergy from Trinity Arrow. It starts feeling good about Act 5, I'd say, better than Barrage. Yeah, this skill hits twice a second, or rather it shoots out a worm that hits twice a second. How many targets it hits depends on the level of Wyrmshot, and how far it can shoot depends on the level of Trinity Arrow. So it shoots twice a second and lasts 2 seconds. So 4 shots total per worm. Yeah, I think that covers the bow tree. Then we have neutral tree. Here we have Wild and Free. Gives you some movement speed and hit recovery. While leveling you can have it maxed. Then we have Fire Elementals. Those are useful for fights like Judgment Day and Cathedral of Vanity, just to have some mid shields. Then we have Balance, absolutely useless for this kind of build. Then we have Ecstatic Frenzy. You want to max this one. It is very important to this build. It gives you stamina, which lets you sprint effectively forever. Also gives you decent amount of magic damage to your attacks and a bunch of attack speed and movement speed. Very, very good. And then we have Defensive Harmony, just a one pointer, a little bit of defensive passive. For your Uber skills, you want to max Paragon, which gives you vitality for each gem socketed in your equipment. As you can see, I have 18.8k HP and I have 0 points in vitality, and my vitality is 5.2k. It's all coming from Paragon. 1 point in Spellbind, useful for bosses to lower their fizz resistance. And 1 point in War Spirit, just gonna be shooting out Novas that can leech you life and proc your procs. That pretty much covers all the skills. Now let's talk about transitioning into late game gear. Level 90 is pretty important breakpoint for Amazon. This is when you get yourself a Paragon Uber skill. And it's also a very good point to make yourself a set of honorific gear. Honorific items can be very good if you played PoE. It's kinda like multi-modded items. They generally aren't as good as crafted rare or unique items, but you get to pick which stats they have. So they make for a very, very good starting set of gear. You should make yourself gloves, belt, boots, and helmet honorific. You want to put flat physical damage and dexterity on all 4. Then you want one of them to have hit recovery, 60 hit recovery, which together with Sunstone of the Twin Seas and Wild and Free passive should get you to 174 hit recovery breakpoint, which is the last one you should aim for. And then the other 3 you should put resists on, and that will make them level 90 required. To go over the process of making the honorifics, you want to make them honorific. They should be sacred. You want leather gloves, sash, boots, and cap. After you make them honorific, you may choose to use Oil of Luck on them and try to get physical resist, +1 phase resist. And you can choose to remake them if they don't get phase resist. After that, you bless them with shrines. If you have them, you should use Abundant Shrine. And after that, you put Mystic Orbs on them. You want to fill out all the sockets with perfect amethysts on all your armor. For your weapon, you want to use perfect skulls, all for Paragon. At level 110, you can add Magic Find to all your honorifics, bringing them up to level 110. And past that point, it's really up to you what to use on them. You'll likely end up replacing some of them. For example, you can easily get yourself a Witch Hunter's Hood early on. They drop very, very frequently. Very good helmet for this kind of build, which you can later on replace for Royal Circlet. Then for your gloves, you could use Hammer Fist. Again, very good item. Gives me a lot more damage than honorific gloves, but you know, less MF. Kinda like my honorific gloves more. I would use something like Hammer Fist for bosses though. And then for your rings, you wanna try to get yourself Rip Stars. You can make them same way you were making your tiered uniques with arcane crystals, or just buy them, they're pretty cheap. For amulet, use whatever you can, really. Anything you find, just look for damage, leech, things like that, attributes. What else? Quiver. Try to get yourself a bag of tricks. If not, you can try to make yourself Hanabigami. Hanabigami isn't really all that good for this kind of build, but better than just a random quiver with nothing on it. Yeah. I think that covers the honorifics. Then for weapon. Oh yeah, and the belt eventually you can switch to Black Void or Lilith's Temptation. Lilith's Temptation pretty much just has the math. Black Void actually has other good stats like Life Leech and attributes. attack speed and fast physical. Really up to you which one you prefer. After Rip Stars, I recommend yourself getting Giant Knuckles. Very good. Damage, Life Leech, Deadly Strike, Freeze Resist, attack speed, all you want. And for Amulet, Dire's Eve. Again, Phase Resist, Damage, Leech, or in for the kill for a math and movement speed and some very nice procs. For your weapons, you have many options starting out. Pretty much any bow that has decent enough physical damage is a good enough starter. So for example, Ascarbid, Hellreach, Chasm Striker, Horned Hunter, Atreyu, Wind Force, even the weird Gajalar Horn Bow, any bow that has decent enough physical damage is good enough to use early on. Each one does different things better. For example, Ascarbid stands out of all other bows by having Rapid Wormshot, which is your by far the best single target option. It works similar to regular Wormshot, except Wormshot shoots twice a second for 2 seconds and can hit, for example, 18 targets in my case. But Rapid Wormshot can only hit 2 targets always, but it hits 13 times per second. So that's 650 weapon damage per second in the last 2 seconds. So 1300 weapon damage per shot from Rapid Wormshot. That's a lot of damage. So Ascarbid, by far your best single target bow, also has a lot of damage itself. Some leech, very good. And Hellreach stands out that it has an orange text which lets you scale your weapon damage with physical and magic spell damage and fire spell damage. I can see this bow being very good if you wanna go full glass cannon, full honorifics, put fire spell damage and physical spell damage all over the place, scaling your procs and your weapon damage at the same time. Can get some serious damage out of this bow. Then we have Chance Striker. It's okay. Doesn't really stand out to me too much compared to other bows. Horned Hunter, same thing. Just kinda whatever. Good enough to kill stuff, but nothing special. Worst case scenario, you can use Herald of Skartara, tiered unique bow. You can't clear things like Duncraig with it. It's not very good for that, but if you have nothing better, here's your fallback option. And then we have Atreyu and Wind Force. So these two bows stand out with their weapon damage heavy procs and pretty decent damage. Atreyu has other good useful stats that it can roll, like physical resist and dexterity and slow target. But it's very hard to get a good roll to Atreyu, so I wouldn't really expect to get a good one of those. But Wind Force is personally my favorite bow. It has by far the best proc. I like it the most, the Claw Tornado. It has extra movement speed, which I also really like, and pretty high damage as well. Definitely my favorite bow to use. Now on the downside, it's a little bit too slow, kinda like Ascarbid and Chasm Striker. So it'll have 8 frame attack, most likely. But besides that, it's fucking awesome. I think that covers all the weapons as well. What did I miss? Talked about honorifics. Talked about jewelry. Talked about quiver. That's it. Thanks for watching, boys. Enjoy your Amazon. Come say hi on Twitch.